10 Chances is a game that can quickly become one of the most excruciating games on The Price is Right. A contestant is given 10 chances to write down the prices of 3 prizes, escalating in difficulty. This is a game that absolutely either needs to be retired or digitally made over because its current format can potentially be a real channel changer. Here we go with 5 fun facts about 10 Chances. Number 5. Technical glitches galore. 10 Chances is a game that is played without electronics. Even without them, the 10 Chances game board has seen countless malfunctions over the years. Correct prices being revealed early, buttons not working, cards falling. It seems to be quite the common occurrence. While the occasional technical glitch can make for fun TV, non-stop errors just go to prove that the construction of the game does not work well. Even a reconstructed version in recent years is not immune to the issues. Number 4. Using all 5 digits. Between 1974 and 1991, 5 digits were offered for the car with the contestant using 4 of the 5. Since then, the contestant has been forced to use all 5 digits, adding to how much the contestant needs to keep track of. With well over 100 possibilities, it can be very easy to forget your previous bids, especially under the hot lights, a screaming audience, and a host chiding you to hurry up. It's stressful enough just to watch, never mind play. Having said that, any fan of the show may argue that, well, actually, there are fewer choices because of the unwritten 0 rule, which leads me to Number 3, the unwritten 0 rule. Fans of the show in general will know that if there is a 0 offered within the digits, the price will end with that 0. However, this is not an enforced rule. If a contestant such as Rita is not a regular viewer of the show, they won't know this. Thus, it can be quite an unfair disadvantage to contestants who don't know the game like so many longtime fans do. And along the same line of thought, Number 2, the 10-second rule. Another rule that is unwritten, at least since the 1980s, is the 10-second rule. A contestant supposedly has 10 seconds to write their answer. However, even this rule is not explicitly enforced these days. There is no clock, no timer, just an angry host yelling at the contestant to write quickly or they lose their turn. And of course, I wouldn't bring any of this up if she wasn't going to be next. The number 1 fun fact about 10 Chances: joy. There was very little joy with Bob Barker when this contestant came up to play 10 Chances in 2006. It's obvious she was really struggling with this game, totally losing her ability to focus, while Bob is moaning at her to hurry the whole time, threatening her with a 10-second rule that, again, is not accurately timed or enforced. Meanwhile, 8.5 million people on YouTube have watched this viral clip of Joy from the earliest days of the site to be referred to as the worst Price is Right player of all time. Sure, she made a mess, but within only 3 tries, she won the car. That doesn't exactly scream worst player to me. The 80-plus-year-old Bob very well could have realized with uncomfortable moments like these becoming more and more common that this might be it for him, because almost exactly 6 months after this game aired, Bob Barker announced his retirement. You know if Golden Road is kicking off the show, it's going to be a good one. A game with one of the most fun presentations, great suspense, and a payoff worth a king's ransom, this game has been considered one of the true gems of Price is Right for years. Time to get back into much more positive territory with the second new game of 1975. Here we go with 5 fun facts about Golden Road. First off, an honorable mention. It kicked off the hour-long version of the show. With a few exceptions over the years, Golden Road is typically Game 1, and thus on November 3rd, 1975, when The Price is Right became a full hour permanently, Golden Road got the ball rolling. The American version of The Price is Right has been an hour-long program ever since, with no signs of ever reverting back. And now, the main list. Number 5, Bob's audience entrance. Since 1989, due to the golden floor markers used to create the appearance of a golden road, Bob would enter through the audience as to avoid spoiling the first game. I always liked this entrance, but at the same time, entering through the audience also served as a giveaway that Golden Road was going to be played first. Not every time, but most times. And on a similar note, as I'm not sure when I'll ever get the chance to bring this up again, back in 1988, Bob only once, entered through the turntable. I cannot for the life of me figure out why this bizarre entrance, which apparently gave him motion sickness, was necessary. Please comment if you know, or even if you just want to take a wild guess. It was odd, to say the least. Number 4. The beginning of the 5-digit era. While most typical vehicles still cost under $10,000, Golden Road was the first game to offer far more to the player. With the game having such low odds of winning, wins were much more spectacular than any other game on the show up to this point. Thus, any player who could beat the odds could walk away with luxury automobiles, motorhomes, and my personal dream vehicle, cabin cruisers. Simply beautiful winnings. Number 3. Drew Carey's debut game. This was the first game that Drew hosted when he took over the reins of The Price is Right 15 years ago, and has been the host synonymous with the show ever since. Although Drew certainly has his critics, myself included, it is important to remember that The Price is Right is still the undisputed king of daytime television, with both of its half hours usually coming in first and second place as of 2022. Number 2. The 7-year drought. Although the game was Drew's first to host in 2007, it took over 7 years for a winner to appear during the daytime version of the show. It wasn't until 2014 that any contestant in this version would win Golden Road. 7 entire years. That's a long time in television terms. And the number 1 fun fact about Golden Road: the second largest prize ever offered in daytime was preempted on the East Coast. In 2013, during Big Money Week, Golden Road featured what would be at the time the second largest prize ever offered on the daytime version of the show, a 2013 Bentley Continental GT worth almost $190,000. However, a CBS special report which aired at the top of the 11 o'clock hour preempted the show on the East Coast. As the years have progressed, more and more episodes have been interrupted or never seen due to these reports, and the question is, why? Are there more breaking news stories nowadays? Or are networks just trying to keep the public more informed? It's an interesting point of debate. Nevertheless, if you were on the East Coast watching that day, you missed out on one of the most expensive cars ever offered in the show's daytime history. Sadly for the contestant Elroy, as so many do playing Golden Road, he lost. I love a good round of poker. I'm not good at it, but I enjoy the experience, especially if I win, which doesn't happen a whole lot with me. Sadly, most of my poker playing friends have moved on in life, as did the existence of Poker Game. A longtime mainstay that retired along with Bob Barker, Poker Game is easily one of the most missed, beloved games in Price is Right history. So here we go with 5 fun facts about Poker Game. Number 5. The digital displays used to be white. What in the world is with this insanity? I'm not blaming early installment weirdness here because every other game with electronics had a visible readout, but the white-on-white design was atrocious. Maybe they were going for the appearance of actual playing cards? It's hard to say. Luckily, this was very short-lived, and the black backgrounds, which look so much better, were created before the end of 1975. Number 4. Ox Baker. In 1981, this game had a contestant who happened to be a celebrity, Douglas Ox Baker. Ox Baker's incredibly unique appearance is due to him being a professional wrestler, particularly a heel or bad guy. His most infamous moment occurred 7 years prior in Cleveland, Ohio, where his heel antics infuriated a crowd so much that it actually caused the second worst sports riot in Cleveland that year. Yes, the second worst. First being 10-cent beer night. As for his experience playing Poker Game on The Price is Right, he won his 4 prizes. Number 3. Conventional poker rules to a point. The game follows the rules of actual poker about as close as it can without dealing with suits. For obvious reasons, there are no flushes of any kind. I do not believe that straights were recognized either, but with the way the game is set up to play, that would seem highly unlikely anyway, and yes, I am open to corrections if that's not true. Also, it is possible for a contestant to get 5 of a kind, even 5 nines, which has happened on occasion. Number 2. It was retired due to confusing rules and low value of prizes. Although I don't personally believe the rules are confusing at all, it is a solid argument that the prizes are too chintzy for modern versions of the show. While most games have been modernized with higher priced prizes, the game still only gave away 3-digit price prizes in the end, thus a contestant will walk away with less than $4,000 worth of merchandise. What was pretty substantial then had certainly lost its glitter by the year 2007. And the number 1 fun fact about Poker Game, it is the longest lived retired pricing game. As I've talked about on my top 10 retired pricing games video, Poker Game is by far the longest tenured game to have been retired at 32 years old. No other game has been on the air for that long and then be shelved. When Bob Barker retired in 2007, Poker Game folded with it. Will it ever come back? Never say never, but even if it doesn't, it will likely stand out as the game that had the most heartbreaking conclusion. One right price is absolutely nothing to write home about. There isn't much to say about a game where a contestant is offered a price and has to choose between one prize or the other. Win them both or go home empty. Eat your heart out, double prices. Here we go with 5 fun facts about one right price. Number 5.
You got a 50-50 chance of winning.
Number 4. A contestant in a wheelchair won a treadmill. In one of the more unfortunate moments in the show's history, Danielle Perez, a contestant who was confined to a wheelchair, was offered a treadmill. Like a truly incredible human, she took the whole thing in stride, saying, "It was fine. There are far worse things on this earth to worry about." I think all of us could take a cue from Danielle. There are far worse things to worry about. Also, much respect to the crew of The Price is Right for accommodating her. Number 3. It once featured 2 male models. Likely a fact that will anger some audiences, in 2019, in a wild departure from the typical nature of The Price is Right models, the game was played with 2 male models displaying the prizes. While I personally don't care either way, I understand why this happened. The Price is Right's advertisers generally cater to a typical daytime audience, which is women aged 25 to 54. It is what it is, and if it's too much to handle, you can stick to the Barker era channel. Number 2. Diplo. In 2020, during Grammys week, the popular DJ Diplo caused some real electricity when he appeared as a guest on the show, walking out the price in the iconic Janice Pennington role. Obviously, this was before he became a bit of a controversial figure in the music world, so his appearance should be taken with a grain of salt. I am not going to explain why. You can look that up for yourself if you are so inclined. And the number 1 fun fact about One Right Price, it still uses the original style price tags. While many games have been updated and changed and enhanced over the years, and even the set pieces around this game have been updated, One Right Price still uses the same style price tags from the earliest days of the game, or to be even more specific, from the very rare Three Furs game that was played during the Dennis James version. Much like the Neon Readout and Race game, there is something so genuine about game pieces that have aged like fine wine and are still used today. The historian in me loves every second of this. Danger Price is yet another simple game with a basic premise that can be played quickly. Like the previous debut of One Right Price, there isn't much to write home about with this game. 4 prizes are presented, 1 price is given, but don't pick that price because it's dangerous. Don't worry though, this slump won't last because business is about to pick up and how. But in the meantime, here we go with 5 fun facts about Danger Price. Number 5. This game scared me as a young child. Prior to 1985, Danger Price was played on a set similar to Clock Game. A blue screen section sat above the title where the control room would key the prize and actual retail price next to the Danger Price over the game board. Seems completely benign, but that skull and crossbones for some reason absolutely horrified me when I was like 3 or 4 years old. Funny enough, I felt like when the game was redesigned in 1985, it was redesigned because it scared everyone, at least in my mind. Yep, more Price is Right nightmare fuel. Number 4, the octagon shape of the set pieces. I'm sure I'm the last person on Earth to realize this, but the set and price turnstiles are shaped like stop signs. If the contestant picks a correct answer, it becomes essentially a green light saying it's clear to continue. If it's red, that's danger. Very cool subtle design that casual viewers like myself may not have picked up on right away. Number 3, technical errors with the second set. Much like with 10 Chances, the second version of Danger Price is played without electronics or special effects, but that doesn't mean the game is free from technical glitches. Every so often, like this event in 2013, the game has malfunctioned in various ways leading to enjoyable television. Everyone loves a good blooper, I guess, although I'm sure for the crew it wasn't that enjoyable at the time. Number 2, various locations. When the game first premiered, the Danger Price part of the set sat on the turntable. Shortly thereafter, it was moved to center stage. And while all the prizes have always sat behind the big doors, now the entire game is played there. They say danger is always on the move, so I guess so is Danger Price. And the number 1 fun fact about Danger Price, it was the first game to premiere in 1976. The bicentennial year in the United States gave us no shortage of fantastic games. This is the first and most basic of all of them. Many of the best games that the show ever saw came from this year. So get ready for an interesting ride as we continue taking a fun fact-filled look at every pricing game in the US version of The Price is Right. Three Strikes is a game that has become more legendary as the years go on. Easily one of the most suspenseful games, this polarizing classic can lead to the biggest of wins and the hardest of heartbreaks. 4, then later 5 digits, then even 6 digits are placed inside of a bag along with the dreaded strikes. Place the digits before the strikes and you win the car. Here we go with the baseball-themed car game that has long since morphed into one of the unicorns of the Price is Right rotation. Here we go with 5 fun facts about 3 Strikes. Number 5, 3 Strikes Plus. With cars regularly moving from 4 to 5 digits throughout the 1980s and 90s, many games were altered to give a contestant a free digit to keep the games fair. But 3 Strikes was simply moved to 5 digits, hence necessitating far more expensive cars. As the years went on, because of this revision, 3 Strikes had become a game for special occasions not unlike Golden Road. And then during Big Money and Dream Car weeks in the 2010s, the game was expanded to 6 digits and kept the original rules. Wait, the original rules? Number 4, Rule Change Experiments. Due to the game having a very low win percentage, some rule changes occurred over the years to help favor the contestants. In 1998, instead of putting 3 strike chips into the bag, only 1 strike went into the bag and was replaced if it was drawn. In 2008, the first number was given away like in any number or lucky 7, but the value of the cars given away had decreased. This only lasted a year, and since 2009, the game has been played with standard rules. 5 digits, 3 strikes, and a huge new acquisition if the player wins. Number 3, Retro Modernization. In 2018, as many games have been given a much-needed fresh coat of paint, 3 Strikes was given a new set reminiscent of retro baseball stadiums. It might even be argued that the new set was either directly or indirectly inspired by Oriole Park at Camden Yards, the first and arguably the most beautiful of all the retro baseball stadiums that would be constructed over the next several years. Number 2, The Curious Case of Tony. While there have been several instances where contestants have been caught trying to cheat their way through this game, there was one incident in particular where a contestant was possibly able to slip away with it. In 1992, a very excited, emotional contestant named Tony played 3 Strikes for a Porsche in one of, if not, the final time a foreign car was given away during the Bob Barker era. Tony, to use a real baseball term, had a full count and was down to 1 number and 1 strike. She reaches into the bag, and it almost appears as if she might have taken a quick peek, noticed the strike, and then grabbed for the number. Technically, cheating was never proven, and she won the car. However, there were slight changes made to the game, including but not limited to Bob blocked differently on the stage, and a slight redesign of the game's bag cover. It was one of those live and learn experiences that really life is all about. And the number one fun fact about Three Strikes, it featured the most expensive prize ever offered on the daytime version. In April of 2013, the prize with the highest value ever offered on the Price is Right daytime version was played on Three Strikes. A 2013 Ferrari 458 Spider convertible worth $285,716 was played for, but very unfortunately lost. Almost 10 years later, no prize has even come close to the value of this particular car, which is worth more than many houses. Once a very popular game among fans of the 70s and 80s, Hurdles was a pricing game that had a distinct track and field theme, sharing the name of the titular sport. It's a fun game and seems to be missed quite a bit by fans today. On your mark, get set. Here we go with 5 fun facts about Hurdles. Number 5. It debuted the year of the 1976 Summer Olympics. In 1976, not only was the United States celebrating its 200th anniversary, as I've mentioned on this channel, but it was also an Olympic year. While I think overall people do still get somewhat excited for the Olympic Games, it seemed like a much bigger deal at the time. This very likely thrust the game into popularity quickly. These Olympics were known for some of the greatest moments in the history of the games, including Nadia Comaneci's perfect 10 in gymnastics, Edwin Moses winning gold in the 400-meter hurdles event, the actual event, not the pricing game, of course, as well as Princess Anne's equestrian appearance, and the beginning of the Jenner legacy. Number 4. The game's music cue is from a famous opera. The song used as the athlete makes his way over the hurdles is a recording of the William Tell Overture. The piece, which premiered in 1829, was the last of Rossini's 39 operas before his semi-retirement. Yes, it should sound very familiar to anyone who has ever turned on a television. The song has appeared in countless movies and TV shows, particularly as the theme of the Lone Ranger. The finale of the overture might even be more famous though, as it's been used in A Clockwork Orange, The Cannonball Run, and even Animaniacs. Number 3. Similarities to a later game. Although it's a slight stretch, there are a couple of elements of this game that seems to re-emerge for a future game which would become easily one of the most popular games in Price is Right history, Cliffhangers. As an example, there is a cartoon figure going through an athletic course. He goes through 3 price-related obstacles, and then if he doesn't make it, he crashes. Arguably, the hurdles crash was much more spectacular in nature, with camera jerks and the word crash and later oops keyed over like a comic book font. But it's clear that the idea of having this cartoonish looking character running a course was a good idea that would work again, and trust me, that game is coming. Oh yes, it's coming. Number 2. The Starter Pistol. Hurdles was the first pricing game to utilize a starter pistol as a prop, and I believe the only one since. Obviously based on real track and field races that operate the same way. The pistol always led to interesting contestant reactions because some of them were completely unfazed by the sudden pop, and others were a bit more rattled. Some contestants were even allowed to fire it for better or worse. One contestant named William clearly wasn't too trained about the use of the pistol, pointing it near his face twice, and then started to aim it towards Bob before he jumped in and showed him how to properly hold it. Even though a starter pistol shouldn't technically fire live rounds, it is still something that can cause injury if improperly handled. So yeah, I would say Bob handing the gun off to some people was a real misfire. And the number 1 fun fact about Hurdles: it was retired due to constant mechanical failures. Hurdles was a rather complex set given it didn't use electronics and suffered from many of the same mechanical errors seen in other games of this nature. Thus, by 1983, Hurdles was retired. Given the game's popularity then and constant revisiting on the Barker Era channel, it is quite surprising that almost 40 years later, Hurdles has not seen a renaissance. While any kind of reboot of this game seems unlikely at this point, never say never. Remember, the future isn't written yet, anything is possible. Cliffhangers is one of the most popular games in Price is Right history. Easily a favorite among viewers, with many considering it to be the best game on the show. The premise is simple. The mountain climber moves slowly up the scale 1 step per dollar missed, but don't exceed 25 steps or he'll fall right off the cliff. I don't know how I can even limit this list to only 5 facts, but I'll try to come up with some points that we can all say are pretty cool and fun to chat about. So here we go with one of the most enjoyable landmark games of The Price is Right. Here are 5 fun facts about Cliffhangers. Number 5. The merch line. Cliffhangers is so popular that it's fairly easy to grab some sweet mountain climber swag. I'm not sure if I'm bold enough to wear a Cliffhanger shirt in public unless I was going to a taping, of course. Either way, there are some cool designs available. Now, if they only made some sweet Professor Price merch, I would totally hit that up for the hipster factor. On second thought, that might be a real mistake. Number 4. The yodeling. Unlike the previous game of Hurdles, where the William Tell Overture music cut was one of the most popular songs in television and film, this one was a little more of a deep dive. The yodeling music is from a 1957 album titled Swiss Mountain Music. The song is called On the Franche Mountains by Jura Orchestra. The part we are all familiar with starts about 41 seconds in. Having said that, I am pretty sure I've heard the rest of the song used in other aspects of media. Comment if you believe you've heard it before as well. Number 3. The $350 bid. There have been some crazy bids over the years, but this one might have had the best reaction. In 1992, a contestant named Clint was asked to bid on a watch. Clearly unaware that he was not bidding on a Rolex or anything of that sort, he decided on a rather unrealistic $350 bid. Bob, knowing that this was not going to end well for the mountain climber, took a seat at the foot of the cliff and asked Clint to join him. And together the two of them sat and watched the mountain climber begin a dangerous journey that, not unlike the ending of Thelma and Louise, was destined to be tragic, heroic, and legendary, all at the same time. Number 2. Halloween and costume changes. While the show has had a long history of celebrating days like April Fool's Day, only since the Drew era has the show celebrated Halloween. And in 2009, Drew showed up dressed like he was ready to climb the mountain himself. While Halloween shows could easily become insufferable, this show seems to knock it out of the park every year. And while we're on the topic of costume changes, it is also noted that in recent years, the mountain climber has been known to wear a costume or two, including Santa Claus during Christmas, Cupid during Valentine's Day, and was even joined by his adorable sister on Siblings Day. Themed events like these are what makes various episodes special, and while I don't agree with every change made, notice I did not refer to the mountain climber as Yodely Guy, I think it is perfectly fine to mix up the look of the game for the sake of special days. And while some people may not ever want the show to change, the world is constantly evolving, and that is important to remember. And the number 1 fun fact about Cliffhangers: the game has appeared on multiple other TV shows. Not even including guest appearances on other CBS shows, including Let's Make a Deal and The Late Show, Cliffhangers has appeared as itself or in some various parody formats on other shows outside of the network, including but not limited to Family Guy, Phineas and Ferb, and Big Mouth, just to name a few. What more is there to say? It doesn't matter if you're a casual fan or know every episode, people generally love Cliffhangers, and they love that growing sense of anxiety for every step the mountain climber takes to the top. May Cliffhangers live on for many years to come. Safecrackers is a small game with a fun concept that has provided years of entertainment. The contestant is given a 3-digit combination to a safe, and if the combination is correct, they open the safe and win 2 prizes, a small one worth under $1,000, and something much nicer. Contestants generally have a high chance of winning, and the game is always fun to watch, but yet it is tainted by one small flaw that I will discuss in this video. You don't need to find the right combination to access this list, because here I will unlock 5 fun facts about safecrackers. Number 5. The Pink Panther theme. The game's original music cue, and one that I remember as a kid, was the theme of the Pink Panther by the legendary Henry Mancini. The highly recognizable song is perfect for playing over scenes that involve people sneaking around clumsily. However, unlike the theme of Cliffhangers, which The Price is Right I would assume has licensing rights to, the show decided to replace the Pink Panther theme with a similar track that is likely far less expensive. Prior to this area, TV shows played copyrighted music regularly. It's a big reason why shows like WKRP in Cincinnati were so hard to release on DVD later. Copyright protection arguably wasn't as strict as it is now. Number 4. The wheel is technically useless. When the contestant is finished selecting their combination to the safe, they spin a wheel before opening it. The wheel technically does nothing, but it does have 2 important purposes. Most importantly, it gives the stagehand enough time to unlock the safe from behind and get out of the way before it's open. It also makes for a nice little effect for the purposes of making the set look realistic, like an actual safe. So while it is really nothing more than a prop, it is still very useful, and the game would be lacking without it. Number 3. The refrigerator strikes back. On January 6, 1983, Holly was modeling a set of appliances when the refrigerator decided to unleash its fury on her. For whatever reason, the doors just would not stay closed on this refrigerator freezer. Considering that for the appliance to work, the doors have to seal shut, and that means there was a major flaw somewhere either in the design of the appliance or in the platform that it was placed on. Either way, Holly handled it like a true professional. Number 2. The zero factor. Safecrackers is overall enjoyable, but it does have one tiny flaw, and that is the game's zero factor. I have discussed a similar situation with 10 Chances, although nowhere near as egregious with this game. Since the 1980s, it is generally expected that the 3-digit combination will end in a 0, essentially giving the contestant a 50-50 chance of winning. Having said that, this is not a rule that is enforced. Not every contestant is going to be aware of this, and while the audience may yell at them fervently to not use the 0 in the middle of the price, it's not an official rule. It could theoretically show up in the middle. Either state that the answer will end in a 0 immediately, or get rid of the pattern altogether. That's my advice. Again, not as egregious as 10 Chances, but still worth mentioning because I hate unwritten rules. And the number 1 fun fact about safecrackers: the game was expanded for a $1 million spectacular. I don't often discuss $1 million spectaculars, but this is quite the exception because for one night, Safecrackers was briefly turned into essentially the ultimate version of Temptation. It was played as normal with the big prize being a car, which is already awesome enough. But then if the contestant won, a second panel of dials were revealed. 5 dials on this panel represented the 5 digits of the car. If the contestant got the 5-digit combination correct, they won $1 million. The caveat is, it was all or nothing. The contestant had to wager the car to go for the $1 million. A tough choice for the contestant, but he chose to keep the car and not play for the million. I would have done the same thing. The odds would certainly have not been in my favor. 1976 keeps on rolling, this time literally. The last several games to premiere have been considered long-time Price is Right staples, and this one is no exception. Dice Game is a long-time favorite where contestants roll 4 standard, albeit oversized dice to create the price of a car. A fun game in which the personality of the host really brings out its entertainment value. Hope you're feeling lucky because here we go with 5 fun facts about Dice Game. Number 5. The original rules. Chalk this one up to early installment weirdness. In the original rule set, a contestant would roll the die and say higher or lower, except all digits were in play. The game was winnable, but not easy to do so. On a standard die, you can't roll a 0, 7, 8, or 9, so you can't get those numbers exactly right. A 5 is pretty safe nowadays, but at this point it was considered one of the riskier numbers. This was very short-lived before the no zeros, no numbers higher than 6 rule was invoked. Number 4. The white line. If a contestant rolls a die and it doesn't cross the white line, it doesn't count. This is likely to prevent rigging the roll and adds to the randomness of the toss, similar to why the big wheel has to spin all the way around after a contestant tried to rig the spin once. Number 3. Superficial similarities to another game show. The contestant's gameplay of Dice Game is very similar, almost identical to another recent game show of that era, High Rollers. Although obviously very different overall games, the idea of a contestant rolling oversized dice appears to be similar enough that it is noticeable. High Rollers was a great game that slipped under the radar, originally hosted by the legendary Alex Trebek and later by Wink Martindale. Number 2. Deluxe Dice Game. The 4-digit format was played exclusively for 7 years until 1983, when the prices of cars were becoming greater than the maximum value of $6,666. A deluxe version of the game was introduced where the first digit was attached to the board and given to the contestant for free. This allowed better cars to be offered and became a permanent fixture by 1988, when essentially fewer cars worth giving away were valued under $7,000 and the name was reverted to simply Dice Game again. Could you imagine them trying to give away brand new cars worth under $7,000 in the year 2022? Come on, even my Versa that died at 80,000 miles was worth more than that, and that says something. And the number 1 fun fact about Dice Game: bidding bad. As has been highlighted on this channel, many celebrities have appeared on the show not as a guest, but as an eligible contestant who was called to come on down. One of these players was this excitable young man who today is considered one of the great working actors in Hollywood, Aaron Paul. Introduced under his given name Aaron Sturdivant, he played Dice Game, spun the big wheel, and later went on to the showcase, only to infamously lose potentially both showcases by only $32. It is one of the most heartbreaking losses in history. But that's okay, because he later starred as Jesse Pinkman in one of the greatest TV series in history, Breaking Bad. Here, he is one of the very few actors to win the Outstanding Actor in a Drama Series at the Emmys 3 times over. Then, after over 17 years, he finally got his redemption on The Late Late Show with James Corden, which just goes to prove that no matter how bad things may seem at the time, they always get better. It's hard to imagine The Price is Right without Bullseye. A popular little game from the get-go, this one is notable for its main round where the contestant picks a quantity of a product and then tries to hit the bullseye, as well as having a second chance round if the first 3 attempts don't work. Always a fun little watch that hits the spot every time. Here we go with 5 fun facts about Bullseye. Number 5. Another game loosely based on a sport. 1976 has so far not let us down when it comes to athletic events. Hurdles paid homage to track and field, Cliffhangers paid homage to mountain climbing, and there's yet another big one coming in the near future, and I'm already quite excited about that one. But here we have a game based on archery, a sport which has essentially gone from the survival of man to recreation. The reason that this fact was given an asterisk is because one could also argue darts as an inspiration as well, which is also a competitive sport. Number 4. It's similar to another classic pricing game. The basic gameplay of Bullseye involves the contestants selecting a various quantity of one of 5 products and then multiplying it to create a price. If this sounds a lot like Grocery Game, you're right, and some contestants understandably confuse the 2 games at times. But unlike Grocery Game, where it's the sum of all turns, each product here is its own exclusive turn, where the result is tallied one at a time. So a slightly different strategy is needed, and bidding over won't necessarily mean an immediate loss, which leads me to number 3, the hidden Bullseye rule change. Much like with the previously premiered Dice Game, there was an early rule difference that made the game just a little more difficult. While the hidden bullseye was underneath the price of one of the products played, only the product that was closest to the bullseye was revealed, thus the player having a random 1 in 5 chance of winning on the second bullseye round. This was very short-lived though, likely played by its current rules after only a few playings. Number 2. The 2017 modernization. Some games have experienced modernizations in recent years like Shell Game and Three Strikes, and the decision to do so among fans is polarizing to say the least. The modernization of this game is slight compared to some others, but it does take away one major aspect of the excitement of the gameplay. Having the hidden Bullseye as a digital graphic and not as a tangible piece of hidden cardboard just doesn't seem quite right. It's almost like it has the potential to change at the discretion of the operator, whereas a cardboard hidden Bullseye is inarguable. While I do appreciate set modernizations, this is one I can't quite get behind. The cardboard Bullseye just works better for the sake of keeping the game as fair as possible. Before I continue, I would like to give one honorable mention. A contestant once played with mismatched shoes. In 1992, a lady named Karen played Bullseye. Bob noticed she was wearing mismatched shoes and called them out on the air. Given how similar the colors are, Bob really had to look hard to have noticed. He had a history of calling out contestants at their expense, especially before the show was reduced to approximately 38 minutes, when that kind of free banter time just wasn't available anymore. One could argue that the name of the show could have been renamed to Bob's Price is Right, Play and Get the Hell Out in the years leading up to his retirement. The game was moving that fast. And the number one fun fact about Bullseye, it's not the first game to be referred to as Bullseye. Serious fans of the show will obviously know this, but for casual viewers, this could be brand new information. 4 years prior to the premiere of Bullseye, there were two failed experiments from 1972 that are referred to as Bullseye 1 and Double Bullseye. I somehow miraculously came up with 5 fun facts about both of these games, and the videos are still available. But those versions were very quickly retired, and in 1976, the Bullseye that we know and love today was created. So while some longtime fans and historians may refer to the game as Bullseye 2, on air, it is simply known as Bullseye. The producers then had no way of knowing that decades in the future, people like myself would easily access the original game's name Bullseye. Nostalgia is a funny beast, for sure. 1976 so far has been a banner year with pricing games, with so many of the all-time greats debuting during this era. And for those of you who love train wrecks, have no fear because 1978 is just around the corner. So let's close out the year with a game that is still beloved by audiences today and is indeed one of the most fun games to watch, play, and cheer for. Let's jump into one of the most popular games in Price is Right history. Here we go with 5 fun facts about Switcheroo. Number 5. The game once got stuck on the turntable. Oops. In 1978, one time the game got stuck trying to spin on the turntable. It was quickly fixed, but it just goes to show the magic of television when it's live, or taped as live. While Price is Right can be edited if necessary, stopping tape only happens if it is absolutely going to grossly affect the outcome of the show. Little moments of imperfection like these never get cut out and are truly what make the show magical. Number 4. Similarities to another game. Remember during the race game when I mentioned that there was a similar game? We got there. Switcheroo shares a great deal of similarities to Race Game, including the timed gameplay, matching numbers to the correct prizes, and the fact that the contestant doesn't have to win every prize. In another odd coincidence, as of the recording of this video, neither game has been modernized and still rely on the classic display technology. Number 3. Big Bucks Bonanzas. Let's be real, winning a nice new car is huge, but Switcheroo has had 2 occasions where the contestant could have walked away with major winnings. In 2008, Switcheroo was the $1 million spectacular game where the contestant would win the million if they played it perfectly in the first round. Then in 2014, a Maserati Quadriport SQ4 worth $109,430 was offered. Neither contestant was successful, but the thought of such big giveaways is pretty cool. Number 2. Drew Carey played the game himself. On The Late Late Show with James Corden, Drew himself played the game while James hosted. Often CBS does a lot of overlap games with other shows including The Talk and Let's Make a Deal, and this was no exception. And the number one fun fact about Switcheroo: 2 special accommodations. Switcheroo might be known for having 2 of the most awesome contestant accommodations in the history of the show, and they happened within a month of each other. In October of 2003, a handicapped contestant played with the help of one of the models, and the time limit was extended to 45 seconds. 1 month later, a 99-year-old contestant played, and Bob, who as of the recording of this video is also 99 years old, explained that the clock was, in quotes, broken. While special treatment isn't always necessary, to give people with such disadvantages the same opportunities as others is so good to see.